what I just said. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Okay. So we move on to new business. It's KPM. Oh, sorry.
We're here. So thank you for having us with you today. I'm very excited to be in person. It's nice to sit around the table and see faces. I'm Camille Fremont. I am your lead audit partner for the MetroPlus Health Plan. I'm joined by Eric Crossett, who is the manager on the account. Just for the committee's benefit, I also support the overall consolidated corporate audit. So I have the pleasure of looking at MetroPlus both at 6:30 and 12:31. So with that, just a very big thank you to Dr. Schwartz, to Lauren, to Lily. We ask a lot of the team in terms of information and documentation, and they're always so gracious in providing that to us, and they get audited twice almost. So I'm sure they appreciate that. So with that said, we're here to present the audit results for the year ending December 31st, 2026. And Eric, are you controlling the slides or? Angela, okay.
Is that okay?
Yep, totally fine. So if we could just turn the slide. We aim to deliver an exceptional client experience to the health plan predicated on our people and our platform. So we're giving you industry experienced team members who are able to take a tailored data-driven approach and a risk-based strategy, all with communication that is open and transparent so that we can avoid as many surprises as possible throughout the audit and make sure we are aligned with management and what we think the appropriate responses or answers to questions would be. Turning the slide, this is a quick snapshot for the committee of items that Eric will take us through in terms of required communications and just where we stand as we're coming towards March 31st when the financial statements will be filed. So as a reminder to the committee, the financial statements are done on the statutory basis of accounting and not under US generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP. So consistent with last year's opinion, there is an unmodified opinion on the statutory accounting basis, and then there is an adverse opinion on US GAAP, and that is discussed in footnote 1A to the financial statements as well. Ultimately, there's differences between GAAP and stat. You need stat financial statements for your filing that's due March 31st, and it just tells the readers that these are not done under GAAP, which is what will happen for your 6/30 financial statements. And there are no corrected or uncorrected misstatements through our testing to date. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric to go high level over some of our required communications.
So we can skip past this slide, go to the next one. So what I just wanted to do was cover some open items as of mailing. So the first thing we had is our journal entry testing. We did get that support from management, I think a day or two ago, and we're actively working through that. So that should be closed out quickly. And then just kind of some more finalization type items would be our tie to the financial statements in the footnote, as well as review of our audit file, and then just a couple more items that are typically open. The last week of the audit would just be kind of down to date procedures, including the rep letter, in-house legal, and external legal letters, and then just the the finalization of our review of kind of our deliverables. But this is consistent with where we were last year as well. Next slide. Just continuing with our required communications, as you can see here, really not much to communicate. There's a couple items listed that I'll cover in greater detail on the next couple of slides. Go to the next slide. So continuing with our required communications, the first is consultations. There was nothing we need to consult about with our Department of Professional Practice. As far as illegal acts or fraud, no actual or suspected. And then here we have just listed some of the written communications that'll come over once the financial statements are issued. Next one. So as Camille mentioned, we do include in our auditor's report an adverse opinion on US GAAP. And once again, that's a standard modification of the opinion for all insurance companies that issue under stat. And this is just language that'll be included on it. If we go to the next two slides are just drafts of our audit report. Pretty much the same as last year. And then go to the next slide here. is just discussing the significant accounting policies and practices. Really no, big new accounting policies and practices this year. No revisions that were significant. And then as far as qualitatively, no management bias, the estimates were all reasonable. And then, really no significant impact on the disclosures. Go to the next slide. Here we just talk about the significant accounting estimates, which we really only have one, which is the evaluation of IPNR claims. We do involve our KPMG actuarial specialist to perform a review of reserves, as well as the audit team does data testing that go into determining reserves. But I think kind of the main takeaway is down at the bottom is that, we've determined that the reserve recorded for IBNR claims was reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. So, we're able to conclude that the reserves are reasonable. To the next one. Just some financial statement disclosures. Really the two most significant ones are just related to the cost of healthcare provided. And once again, the change in claims payable, because that is connected to the IBNR claims, the reserves. And then, we found those to be acceptable under the financial reporting framework, and then everything that went in determining those estimates and the disclosures was reasonable. Go to the next slide. I'll hand it back off to
Sure.
Camille.
So we are required, if you remember, the rules changed for those who file with NIAIC guidelines. So you are considered a public interest entity under those guidelines. And what that means is, as a PI, there are enhanced reporting requirements or communications to members of the committee. So if you remember the last time we were here, we talked a little bit about those non-audit services that we not only potentially provide to MetroPlus, but also up the chain, if you will, or the tree to Health and Hospitals Corporation. We are independent as it pertains to yourself and to the corporation. We will just continue to communicate with the audit committee those services we may be doing that are outside of what you had originally known of our scope. And we also have to communicate fees as a result of those new guidelines. So no concerns from our perspective. And then as we turn the slide, I would just ask if the committee members could spend a minute looking at the questions that are on here. We have had inquiries with members of management, Dr. Schwartz, Lauren, Lily, Raven. But if anyone is aware of anything they feel we should know about, please let us know. We could maybe do that during executive session, or happy to stay after and talk to anyone, but I'll just pause for a minute. I'm judging by the faces around the table. It doesn't sound like anyone has anything, but again, if there is anything, happy to have that discussion. That was our required communications. We do have some additional thought leadership materials as a leave behind for the committee. Happy to take any questions either on our presentation or on the materials if there are any.
I just had a question about H&H audit. There was a finding.
Yes.
I'd like to know the status of that.
Yes. So when we were sitting at the H&H committee meeting, there was a finding around claims paid, and we were identifying differences as a result of that, and we had to continue to expand our test work. So happy to report we then came back for 12/31 and we resampled all of the claims, so 1/1/25 through December 31st, 2025, and we did not have similar issues. So management has gone through that as well. So we don't have that issue here. We're hopeful that as we turn the page to the 6/30/26 audit for the consolidated audit, we can use the second half of the year for MetroPlus's claims for the 6/30 year end. And hopefully when we do the second half or the first half of 26, that supports 6/30/26 there, we can leverage those claims at the 12/31/26 audit for MetroPlus. It just depends what those results are.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what was raised at H&H regarding MetroPlus. Is that what the
So-
issue was?
Yes, so what happens is similar to what we do for the 1231 audit where we test a sample of claims. When we were doing a sample of paid claims, we were identifying differences. And so it's a statistical sample, and then we were expanding our sample.
Differences between
as differences between what we thought the paid amount should be and what was ultimately paid based either on the contracts or different rate changes that went into play. We worked with Lily and Lauren through that. And just, I want to be clear, the differences we were identifying were small individually, but then when we put it through the statistical sample, they would of course become larger. And there's always more likely than not going to be some differences in claims payments. It's an art, sometimes not true science. But we just needed to work through that. We did not experience that as of 1231. And they're all random samples that we select.
Yeah, no, so that's done. If you don't have any questions, I think you're free to leave.
Okay. Do we come back for executive session?
There's gonna be at 1, no, not the executive, because we don't have anything
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. And then,
They can virtually come in at one.
for the board.
For the board
yeah.
of directors.
yes, and just as a
Right,
reminder,
just at the end, we'll ping you. We have the timing on that meeting down to.
okay, I need to, for the benefit of the committee, I just need to drop from the
Yes.
board meeting earlier because I have another audit committee meeting today. But thank you all. And again, Dr. Schwartz, Lily, Lauren, thank you for all of your help throughout
Thank
the
you.
audit.
Thank you for
We
your work
appreciate
as
it.
well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Morning, everybody. Can I start?
Yeah.
All right. Can we move to the next slide, please? So I'll be providing you a snapshot of our cybersecurity program. A lot of it is going to be through the year end. Some of it will be more current snapshots, and I'll follow the same format I usually do. So our training and awareness still remains strong through orchestrated phishing and simulations as well as testing. We're still ahead of our, the industry average. Quarter over quarter, we're fairly on a par. We do show strength in employees reporting suspicious activity by the green bars going from left to right. I think we hit an all-time high of 396 reported phishing based on the simulation testing. And our repeat clickers have dropped from 0.70% to 0.58. So those are all good indicators that the program is resonating. We are going forward, start ratcheting up the testing. So right now we've taken out the easy and moderately easy phishing samples, and we are starting to go. So right now we're testing for medium, high, and difficult. So we're going to start waning out of the medium area and move towards high and difficult across the board. Typically randomizes. So some of you may get really easy tests and some of you may get harder, but we're going to start dropping the low-lying fruit and move towards hard and difficult going forward. So these numbers may increase over the next couple of months, but hopefully we'll get some good recognition that the suspicious activity has to be reported. So I just wanted to put that out there. Any questions? Okay, can we move to the next slide, please? So I added to the system health. We're tracking operating system end of life this year. So we have SQL servers. Originally, we were dealing with roughly 100 SQL Server clusters that are reaching end of life by July of 2026. We're almost at 50% as of this date. As of the writing, we were at 39% complete. We are definitely on track to complete the upgrades to a current version of SQL Server. Matter of fact, we might be able to complete it by mid-May to late May. and Windows Server 2016, where we had, I think, about 140, 150 servers. We're at 14% as of the writing of this. I think we're closer to 25% now, but that will move more quickly as time goes by. So we're still on track to beat the January deadline. The only safety net we have on these two items is that we could actually subscribe to security patches after end of life, but I'll reserve that as we approach the end to determine whether we need to do any of that at all. Mail defense, there's a marked 41% delivery for the fourth quarter, which is typical. Usually a fourth quarter when holidays come running around, we do see an uptick in suspicious mail coming in that gets blocked. Typically, a lot of people take off, so that's the time where the bad actors will to infiltrate most organizations. So the 41% is not unusual and it's not unexpected. Antivirus still remains strong, and security patching also remains strong. We're very diligent on that. In our Security Operations Center, SLAs are all within the guidelines that we've established. Any questions?
Was there additional concern specifically in your area, given what's happening in the world? That's a big question.
It is. Yes. Well, the only thing we can do is remain defensive and remain diligent in doing what we're doing specifically on this slide. I go through a daily regiment of alerts, reports, and geopolitical information that comes to me every day to determine are we at risk or higher risk than we were the day before. So yeah, the answer is yes, we're concerned. AI is a wild card. So artificial intelligence can greatly help us out in certain areas, and it also can be very risky in others. So the team and I are working on an AI governance technical control model that we're looking for solutions so that we can identify when AI is being leveraged and whether it's leveraged in an advantageous way or a risky way. So there's a lot of emerging tools out there that we're looking at. I don't want to jump too quickly at a tool that looks great because it looks like it will solve world hunger, because none of it does. But we're doing our due diligence, trying to find the right technical controls that will alleviate the human factor, right? That administrative controls are important for people to understand, but technical controls can actually stop threats in its tracks. And that's what I'm concentrating on, is the technical controls, so that we're not totally reliant on people that are holding a mouse and clicking on the. So I hope I answered your question, Talia. Security investigations, user behaviors, assets, all down. I think that's important. User behaviors, sending emails to personal email accounts, things like that. We identify it, we recognize it, we contact the end user if they do it, just to confirm that it was legitimate. Most of the time it is legitimate. But the downward trend is all welcomed. I'm very happy about that. We're currently tracking 6 laptops that weren't returned by former employees as of this writing, which was about a month ago. And one cell phone wasn't returned. We haven't had a lot in the way of lost equipment, 3 smartphones for the last quarter. And staff investigations, typically about 25 folks that we're pulling information for, and that's usually a result of HR requesting information from our employee investigations and things like that, dealing with union questions that might come up. But we provide all that information, and the statistics kind of speak for themselves. It's on a par, about 25 custodians quarterly. Can we move forward? Business continuity for 2025. We reviewed over 222 critical processes. We built mitigation plans around what if there were any shortcomings. The short of the business continuity program is that last year was an extremely busy year between relocating data centers, prepping for network segmentation. A lot of rehearsals went into this. I expect that we may not be able to achieve as much activity this year as we did last year, just because those pieces are complete. But I am still pressing the team to conduct tabletop exercises, disaster recovery testing, and things of that sort, so we remain sharp and that we're ready for whatever comes our way.
Just to clarify and remind what Rob was talking about. So we've been talking about separating from health and hospitals for a while. It took a little longer than we would have liked, but at this point, we're fully separated.
Really?
The separation was completed last month. And so now, and very timely, if there is a breach and you sign the news, the two systems are separated, so a breach cannot leak from one system to the other.
Correct. That was a huge concern throughout my tenure here, that because we shared the same network. If you think about the threat landscape on the H&H side, there's the 50,000, 60,000, and we're just a mere 1,800 to 2,000. So the risks that H&H take on could actually bleed into us if we remained on the same network. So separating was a very good thing for us. I think it was good for them too. There's no shared risk there. But it gives us end-to-end visibility and control over what we do and where we need to go and what we need to defend. So it was a big undertaking. Kudos to the IT technical folks. They did a great job. And all of MetroPlus, who had to shift, somewhat of a cultural shift to do timesheets and things like that. There were some changes that had to be implemented, but it was a worthwhile endeavor. Any questions? Okay, let's move on.
Congratulations on that. I know it wasn't an easy process.
It was very difficult, more difficult than it needed to be honest with you, but it was a worthwhile endeavor. That's all I could say. I think that we're going to be much better off for it.
We underplayed the effort, but Rob is correct. This was not just a technical separation. All of us are now operating differently because of that. So, for example, if finance needs to go into the systems because payroll, et cetera, and finance are happening on the H&H side, now that we're two separate systems, the process changed. I go and approve contracts and payments and vouchers, et cetera. The process has changed. And as Rob mentioned, all of the timesheets that everybody is completing, the process has changed. So besides the physical separation, et cetera, the whole company went through a mini transformation.
Yeah, huge undertaking. And by the way, I think it should get better over time when health and hospitals decides to move, or it gets to a point where they move PeopleSoft into the cloud. Then we can go back to what we used to do and get direct access to it rather than go through a roundabout way of accessing it. But we shifted appropriately. I don't think anybody felt a lot of pain. Maybe finance did a little bit. But
we're rolling with it, Rob. We're good
I know.
partners.
I know. I love my finance people. Okay, so let me get back on track. Application development lifecycle. We're still doing great here. Alex and team are doing a phenomenal job keeping up with threats and recognition of any code that needs to be modified or updated. So I'm not going to get into it, but they're doing a great job, and we're keeping up with everything. So it's an honorable mention in this slide deck. Getting into our delegated vendors, we had an overall portfolio 10-point drop. Noise level, in my opinion. We did remove Argo, who was a overflow call center vendor, since we concluded our engagement with them. We're currently evaluating Wipro for BPaaS, and Evercore and Evolent for medical management oncology. All three of those organizations look very strong from a security perspective. In practice, I think we're just going through what they are providing us once things are contracted and are go, we'll move forward with whoever the eventual award will go to, whether it's Evercore or Evelyn. Health Edge remains strong. We have a great partnership with them. We're working through Wave 2. So we're tracking that as well. And overall, I think our delegated vendor portfolio remains strong.
The lowest one on this list, Vibrant Emotional Health, we're in the process of moving away from that. Not because of that, because we have a better solution, but we will be moving away. So don't be concerned that they are at the bottom and dropped. I don't know what the timeline is. Do you guys know? Operations is, they're not in this committee, but operations is responsible for it. But in the next few months, we will be transitioning out.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure. I'm sure I'll be involved in vetting whoever we engage with.
H&H.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No vetting necessary.
I think you vetted them.
Yeah, Rob, you don't have concerns with. And the two entities that dropped 10 points, you don't have concerns with those.
I don't have concerns with a 10-point drop, only if it applies to Metro Plus. Then I have huge concerns.
Well, doesn't Caremark,
Oh, Valencia, do you want to turn your mic on?
oh, you can't hear me? Is that? I was just asking about Caremark. That's not of concern.
Caremark is not of concern. If you look at the trend to the right, they're actually on an upward swing overall. That's if you look at the amber line going from left to right in the trend area. So I'm not overly concerned with a 10-point drop with them. I would only be concerned with a 10-point drop if it impacted Metro Plus membership and information. So, but any 10-point drop or a 10-point gain is, in my opinion, a degree of noise level. I'm not too concerned. You see a 20 or 30% drop, then I would be inquiring about what happened. Did it impact us? So on and so forth.
Okay.
Oh, I'm missing a slide.
We moved that
The
to
famous
exec
slide.
session. We moved that to exec session. Remember, Rob? We wanted to use.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you were going to move to that section or not. Great, we'll talk about it then. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Internal.
Good morning to the committee. Just going to briefly discuss where we currently stand, and then we can discuss more in executive session as needed. Right now, model audit rule, which is a regulatory requirement. At this point, we are essentially 99.9999% complete. I'll discuss what small part remains, but at this point, we're very comfortable with regards to our testing and the status of our controls. Member applications, we are close to wrapping up. I'll discuss in some greater detail some of the items I'd like to discuss. And ESRD population management, we are currently in the process. We've been doing some groundwork to understand the areas of greatest risk or of concern, and we're looking to crystallize that and get that rolling. Next slide, please. As far as open caps, we have currently 5 items across 2 audits, and I'll discuss the status of those accordingly with regards to where they stand. And that's all I have for internal audit. If there's any questions. All right, thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the compliance summary. Today we'll just be covering the status of the 2025 work plan and then our standard highlights and regulatory updates. So yeah, you can move, Angela. Thank you. So we're starting out with the corporate compliance team. As a reminder, this is the team that overlooks anything that is not specific to necessarily lines of business, but comes across all activities. As you can see, we, with the exception of one, hit 100% completion on all items. The encounter data implementation oversight, we continue to be engaged with New York State on, certain components, and so that's why that remains open, and this will be open for at least a little while longer here. Next slide, please. Again, same on the privacy side, 100% completion on our work plan activities for 2025. Next slide. So these are going to go fast because luckily I'm mostly reporting 100% across the board. We are on this slide, which is our vendor compliance slide. Again, almost all activities are 100% complete, but we do still have 2 operational audits for our vendor SS&C and for our vendor DentaQuest that are still in the process of being finalized. As you can see, the DentaQuest operational audit only began in December, and it usually takes a number of months to complete the full review, issue and finalize the report, and then go back and forth with the vendor on any items that are necessary. So we'll have updates for the committee at the next meeting. Next slide, please. Anthony, you can report on this.
Sure. So this is the status of our work plan for 2025. These were all initiated in Q1. We're 100% complete on just about all of them. There's a couple that are still ongoing for our labs and our opiate prescribers that we're still looking into and considering potential FWA referrals. And our outlier notification letters are just about complete. And I expect a report end of year Q4 2026. Every column here should be 100%.
Next slide, please. In our product compliance arena, we are a little bit more varied. Our RRP enhancements and our annual compliance program effectiveness review were 100% complete. We, as I will note here, and you guys have heard me say repeated times, there are some corrective actions that are system-based that we'll be waiting for. So you will see that the CHIP audit corrective action item will remain open for at least another number of quarters for us. And then we, despite not having a scheduled Article 44 on the agenda, we still conduct readiness for ourselves to ensure that we're in alignment. And so that audit ended up at 20% completion in order to prioritize other audits, reviews, and activities that were coming directly from the state. So that essentially got moved to the side to actually respond to the audit volume we were receiving.
When do you anticipate completing it?
So the way it's going to work for us is we're still, I will be honest with you, as you'll see on later slides, we are still in the thick of a very significant volume of audits coming externally. So when we put this on our work plan initially in 2025, we were not in that level of volume. And so this was because it's a readiness review, we will likely not get to it before we are doing actual readiness for the next time we have an Article 44, just given the volume and framework.
Are there any outstanding issues from the 44?
They're not.
But also the way, right, the state shared that they're going to change the way they conduct those audits.
Correct.
And or do you want to expand in the executive session?
I can expand a little. I can go into more depth in executive session, but essentially the state appears to have been, hearing a variety of arenas, but in this one specifically from CMS about their monitoring and oversight of the plans. And so one of the things that they indicated to us in the context of a recent audit is that they will be requiring significant changes to what our documentation looks like, what our policies have to look like, what our technical documentation looks like, what they have to contain. And so you will see on our 2026 work plan that we have a very focused arrangement on our policies and procedures. And that is in part to address this new approach that the state is taking. The other new approach for us is that Lindsay, as I'm sure you would recall as well, Article 44s used to be on a standard schedule that we would every 2 years, we would have one. And the state has also modified that. We no longer have a schedule. We no longer work on a 2-year cycle. They will essentially, anytime after 6 months post an approved plan of correction related to an Article 44, they could come again to do a targeted survey, but no dedicated timeline for when full scope surveys will occur. So we no longer have a schedule. So we would have traditionally been planning to expect it to come this December based on when the last one was, but they informed us point blank that we could not plan for that.
Think whether that's good or bad.
Oh, well, for me, it's bad.
Opinion.
Yeah,
but
yes.
You like the schedule better?
Yes, yes. I like being able to put it on my work plan, especially advising the business units. We had another audit where we had no notice, and it turned into an 8-month review, right? And so the business units had no preparation, no planning, no way to, like I said, plan for incorporating it into also having to do the day-to-day work every day. So a schedule really does help. Are people going to be here? Are they not going to be taking vacation? Things of that nature.
Well, and how do you do the readiness for it? You don't know what's gonna.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
That's why I wanted to comment on it, yeah.
Yep, yep. So this is really, it did not get completed in 25 and it will not be a focus for 26. If there's no more questions, we can go to the next slide. The next couple of slides are on our business process monitoring unit, and you will see hundreds. You can keep going, hundreds. We did all of our business process monitoring activity in 2025. So that includes all of our weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual reviews that are encompassed in that team.
How do you do that in the midst of the transition? Does that affect your ability to conduct some of the internal audits that you do?
All we do is make sure that that we are going to the correct place and team for any additional data that we might need. But no, it hasn't needed to modify our schedule or our approach in any way. Sorry, I'm gonna just mute while I blow my nose. Okay, so this is just our standardized reporting on various activities. So in the corporate compliance arena, we successfully maintained our exclusion screening program, conducting all of our monthly reviews across all 4 quarters and 12 months of the year. This next, on the right side, it gives a just a breakdown of our compliance investigations. And so this is through all mechanisms, including our compliance hotline, which again has both phone and anonymous online submissions. In total, we received 279 reports. Because we make, an online portal easily available to people, we regularly receive communications through that portal that are not actually compliance related. They are usually customer service related. I need a new ID card. I want to change my PCP. So 128 of those 279 were triaged out for not being compliance related and handled. And we opened a total of 151 investigations, of which 83 were closed in 2025. And you can then see a slide about our trend over the last couple of years in terms of the reporting. Next slide, please. And so on the privacy side, we almost never have anything to triage here. Almost all these are retained in the team. And so that was the case for Q4 as well. We received 25 reports and 25 were opened. And then we also closed 16 in Q4. And for the year end total for 2025, we had 105 total investigations. That includes a number of the items that, Rob mentioned in his reporting as well. Next slide. And so this is a reporting on our policies and procedures and the compliance operations. So when we say a policy and procedure is open, that means it is actively in the policy and procedure creation / update process. We have a very we used our ServiceNow tool, have a very systematized process for getting documents updated, reviewed, and signed off on by all the necessary parties. So there are 315 policies and procedures currently open. In Q4, we initiated 16 policies for their annual review. And we were also able to finalize and publish 22 policies and procedures in Q4. And then you can see across stages of the policies and procedures where the 315 that we mentioned that are open are. As you can see, most end up spending their time in interdepartmental review because we always want to ensure, member services says medical management is doing something, medical management agrees that's what they're doing, and it matches the process all the way through. However, something might get handed off. With no questions, we can go on to the next slide. This is a report of the surveys, audits, reviews, whether from New York State of Health, OMH, DFS, et cetera, all of our state regulatory and federal regulatory reviews. So you can see for Q4 2025, we received a total of 70 surveys. That's 32 requests from New York State and 6 from CMS. And for the year end, we had a total of 270 surveys. And so this is not necessarily always the full audits, but the individualized smaller requests for information, for follow-up, for data, for review, for submission. So we had a total of 270 in 2025. Okay, no questions about that. We can go on to the next slide. This is our implementation summary. This tracks where we are in regulatory implementations. As of Q4, there were 78 total implementations that were still in progress. We out of a total of 145 that were opened in 2025. Q4 alone had about 41 that were opened, and then we were able to close 12 implementations in also in Q4. And so far in calendar year 2026, we've already opened an additional 29 implementations as of the writing of this, which was a couple of weeks ago. And so there are technically more at this point.
You remember, this is why we created the SWAT team under product, just to help us, because otherwise the company was constantly diverted towards those implementations, and we couldn't focus on other initiatives that are important for the business. So we separated, we put those implementations under product with a dedicated team so that the company can continue to focus on business needs.
Yeah, as you can see, it's we are finding more and more that these implementations are stretching across multiple lines of business, and that obviously means with slight nuances in certain instances.
Give me an example of one of the implementations you're referring to that go across, that cross cuts.
Well, one that I will give you much more details in our later session about interoperability. So interoperability is a federal rule that relates. Well, it covers a lot of things, but it is ultimately about member and patient access to information, technological tools. And so we have to produce particularized information on certain deadlines and separate deadlines for Medicare and CMS directly controlled products, different timelines, different sets of obligations to achieve those same goals for state products. And we have been implementing this perpetually iterating set of rules around interoperability for 4 years now. The federal government is continuing to issue additional components of the rules and updates and changes as we go. I have been singing, the song from the children's show. This is a song that doesn't end. Well, that's the interoperability implementation.
The gift that keeps on giving.
It is indeed. But that's one where it's dozens of areas across the company, all of our lines of business, and it goes on for extended periods of time. There's no other questions about that. We just have our regulatory highlight slides. And again, so the interoperability, I know it's very small, and I'm actually not going to walk you through each of these. Obviously, you have it to review, but the interoperability one is the first one at the top. And it really lays out, in addition to the internal activities that we have to do, our enhancements to our reporting obligations. And so we not only have to have a patient access API where individuals can come and find their information and download it into a third-party app if they want to, we now have to report on how often people utilize that tool to CMS. So it's not enough to do the work, you have to report on it. We most recently reported that 2 people
Yeah.
had access to this
So-
API that we had to spend years developing and implementing. So that's really, and then I'll talk more about how that's playing out on the state side as well. But this is obviously the Medicare specific components. Again, a lot of this is technical reporting requirements. We have to report additional information around our provider directory. And then, some reminders and obligations. Again, a lot of submission and reporting requirements that we're seeing. If you want to the next slide, it's some additional updates. And a lot of these are pretty standard readiness checklists for Medicare. A large one that we will spend time obviously talking about in this committee are changes to the program audit protocols for CMS. A large one is that you've seen us report on our compliance program effectiveness audit every single year. We have to do that review, but CMS is no longer treating a lot of the compliance program like standalone reviews in their audit. They are now embedding the compliance components into each of the other business unit areas. So rather than presenting just your consolidated compliance program, you have to say, this is how compliance is working in medical management. This is how compliance is working in claims operations. This is formally inside the audit. And it doesn't sound massively different, but it is quite significant in terms of how you manage the audit and the contents.
Pulling in again business leads
Mm-hmm.
to be compliant. And then just as we talked about implementation, talking about regulatory, I think you probably will see either at the next committee, and if not, definitely the third one this year, us getting ready for 2027 with massive HR1 changes. I mean, we expect that a lot of the attention, a lot of the attention of the entire company will be drawn towards those implementation and additional requirements. While, as you saw, while we're going to still be implementing the last waves of health edge. So we will have to be very, very thoughtful about our staffing plan and how we can address those 2 significant efforts at the same time. 2027 is probably going to be the most challenging year in terms of the demands on the plan to do both.
Yes.
So
and I think
we have to plan now.
Right. So we're starting to prepare for ourselves about what we think we might need while still ultimately waiting for the specific directives of what plans will be tasked with, what our responsibilities will be, and what our operational impacts and needs are going to be based on that. So we still don't know how much of what's going to be required to actually implement the HR1 framework is going to sit in plan hands.
You've got no guidance from the state yet.
Correct.
Do they have a time frame for when you might get guidance?
No.
But they are exploring how to be compliant with the language from the feds that says you cannot rely on the plans, but still utilizing the plans.
Right.
So there are a lot of
That's why they are.
conversations with the plans of how the plans can support. So we know we'll be playing a significant role. And the way the timelines work with the state, we can't wait for them to decide. So we have to make some educated guesses and start kind of beefing up our staffing to address the execution, because we will be significantly behind.
And one place we do know, the state did report that their primary focus right now is getting everyone off of WMMS and the local social services districts, which I've been having that conversation my entire career. But they were essentially saying that especially as it relates to work requirements and 6-month recertification, anyone who is going through the local social service district process does not have access to all of the tools and reporting and databases that NISO does. And so all of those individuals are then in a much more risk and manual process. So they need to get them onto NISO to be able to try and take as much advantage of technology and data as they can for the whole of all the affected populations. But even that ends up being quite an operational change for us. We have protocols, data frameworks, all of these things that we are set up with HRA, how we do our phone calls, what our day-to-day operational processes look like. So even a change like that trickles down to us and changes that we're going to have to make, plan for, redo policies, redo procedures, redo workflows. It'll be significant. Even something that, that sounds like it has nothing to do with us actually impacts us quite significantly. As we move on through the slides, I'm not going to walk you through the specific, you can go to the next slide. On the state side, these are all very specific, narrowly focused implementations and updates that were made in terms of coverage of a variety of services, et cetera. But so in the future, as Talia said, we'll be, I think, focusing a lot more on what the large impacts as it relates to HR1 are. But if we go down 2 more slides, it will just say that we did receive, again, on interoperability, the notification from the state about how the state would be implementing. And the major one for us was that the CMS timeline, the timeline that is actually in the final rule, was 1/1/27 for compliance with the new interoperability provisions. But because in a business like Medicare, it goes from CMS to the plan, but in all the other lines of business, it goes from CMS to the state to the plan. New York State determined that in order for them to be in compliance with the CMS deadline, we had to be doing this process by April 1st.
Oh, wow.
And the notification for that came to us. The specifics of what the state expected came to us the second week of March. So,
And they want you to have it implemented by April 1st?
And so actually the webinar that is going to be hosted to go through details, try to answer questions, et cetera, will be held on March 31st. And so we will be obviously keeping the committee apprised of what our compliance with those looks like as we go. So I think that is the end of my
Well,
presentation.
and then obviously the New York State budget is being finalized.
Yes.
There are, if you're following, there are proposals there that will impact our operations also very significantly.
Yes.
Around authorization.
Expansion of EP benefits on the table.
Really?
Yes. EP benefit, potential limitation on authorization for people with chronic conditions.
Right, limiting it to once per year, trying to work out what the definition of utilization management and chronic condition would be, because the legislation didn't really have a definition of what that was. Other states have run into problems for having laws of that nature with no, specific definitional framework. The IDR conversation is still on the table around modifying the framework, the inclusion of Medicaid, what it needs to look like, a lot of really impactful stuff.
So this is what we know for sure, but as you know.
You don't know what's
we're in
coming.
the last days of the negotiation, so there is gonna be more.
Yeah, and I think the impression at the very least is that the governor basically has indicated that she would prefer an appropriate budget to an on-time one. And so we're not really expecting to see it on April 1st.
Used to get done sometimes in July and August, so.
Yeah,
It's, frankly, it's less the timing and more.
what's in there?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly, and what will this mean in terms of additional implementation, additional adjustments on top of everything else?
So,
So would we, like, to move into executive session? So I think you just need to call for a motion to do
Oh,
so.
okay. Can I have a motion to move into executive session? So moved.
second. Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen. So are we all set, Angela? Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, she stopped the recording, I think. Oh, yeah, yeah. Here, not if I hit myself on my own bed.
No hazard.
Thank you all. I'll see you in the afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a nice ride.
Careful, please.
Okay, so we moved out of executive session. We'll move you back into the regular session and we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Yay.
Yay.
Meeting adjourned. All right, thanks, Rob.
Thank you, everybody.